Penn State is the greatest team. This team is the greatest team of all time. NCAA team scoring record, 177 points. The first five-time individual champion with Carter Starocci. Two NCAA champions, three finalists, 10 out of 10 All-Americans, and a four-peat, all capped off here. They go down in history as the best.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling. Thank you so much for joining another live edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, the number one Penn State sports podcast out there. My name is Zach Seyko. I am your host of the show. I hope everybody had an adrenaline rush because we're going. This is the end of the season recap, NCAA tournament recap, to encapsulate everything that was accomplished here between Penn State, obviously the fireworks at the end. There's plenty to discuss here, as this is one of the more memorable seasons from Penn State's perspective for college wrestling. I don't think college wrestling has been in a better spot. I genuinely do believe that. It helps that Wyatt Hendrickson takes out Gable Stevenson, but we got to focus on Penn State first and foremost with a new NCAA record after they put up 177 points. Defeating the team title record, defeating the record from a season ago of 172.5, 10 out of 10 All-Americans. Everybody said that it wouldn't be done. It couldn't be done. Not over here on this show. We called that on this show. Now, granted, didn't exactly think that it would go this way. It still happened. It still happened. We thought it would go in a different regard, but Penn State, 10 out of 10 All-Americans, 3 finalists, 2 NCAA champions, 5 third-place finishers. Nobody finished below top 6, and honestly, Greg Kirkfleet probably would have finished higher if he didn't have to medically forfeit. Cael Sanderson's greatest team of all time. There's a lot of teams that stand out. There are different characteristics that stand out about those teams, but this one was the most complete team. We saw it for all the way through the regular season. At any of those respective tournaments or dual challenges, right? The collegiate duels or the Army Black Knight Invitational, defeating the likes of number 2 Iowa 30-8, winning against the number 2 team in Nebraska convincingly. Was it 31-7? This Penn State wrestling team goes down as it stands alone. It stands alone in history, but it's not just the NCAA tournament that can back all of this up. It was the dominance through the dual meets and then the way that they performed to cap it off at the NCAA tournament. So there's so many places that we can begin this conversation with. I think overall there were mixed emotions in that second day with the semifinals. They did not go as planned. I think individually, specific wrestlers came up short. You would like to have seen, because Levi Haynes could have won that NCAA title against Keegan O'Toole, but Dean Hamity did go on to win. So in hindsight, Haynes lost to the eventual NCAA champion at 174, Tyler Kasak, right? But they all bounced back. They finished third, and that's the resilience. That's the Cael Sanderson lesson, the teaching, the mentality that you just have to show up and fight, continue to show up and compete, and good things will absolutely happen. And they did. Because if Penn State doesn't show up on day 3, they go out there and win, or they just, okay, let's just get it done, right? We fell short of our hypothetical expectations. No, because they fought, they ended up meeting those expectations. They got 10 out of 10 All-Americans. They broke the scoring record. Everybody finished at the highest position possible. Braden Davis pinned his opponent in the 5th place bout. And then Carter Starocci winning a 5th NCAA title. ESPN got lucky. ESPN gets lucky that Wyatt Hendrickson happens to pull off one of the greatest upsets in, I'd say, combat sports history. I think this extends beyond collegiate wrestling. I think this extends to anything and everything. If we want to include even WWE, I really think that's really one of the most historic victories in its own right, head to head. So ESPN gets lucky, and some people are going to make the argument that, ESPN got it right. I still think they didn't. because you could have had Wyatt Hendrickson and Gable Stevenson as the match beforehand. Again, it's about the buildup. I disagree with the bookends, okay? You could have had both back to back. You could have had Gable Stevenson and Wyatt Hendrickson, or you could have had Carter Starocci and Parker Kakaisen before that. I would have been a little more accepting of that if Starocci and Kakaisen had been the match ahead of Stevenson, but not at the beginning. You are never going to get those two moments right there. Both of them were historic for their own specific reasons. But you're supposed to have them build up. There was no hype. There was no anticipation. Everybody tuned in for Carter and Kakaisen, and then they tuned out, and maybe they came back for Gable Stevenson and Wyatt Hendrickson. Who knows? But they missed a lot of other great wrestling in between. Really, you missed a lot of elite wrestling. If you want to grow the sport, if ESPN wants to do what it's supposed to do, if everybody's on the same page about growing the sport of wrestling, you don't give people an excuse to leave. So I think there was a lot of I think there were a lot of missed results in between. However, focusing on the positive. So you can slice it either way. I think that, ESPN got it right because Hendrickson ended up doing the unthinkable. I still think that Starocci and Kakaisen should have been somewhere at the end. Either it was the second to last match or it was the last match, because that's never happening again. You will get another elite caliber wrestler that has a chance to be upset at some point in time in the NCAA tournament. You will have that type of moment again. Anyway, Starocci goes 5 for 5. And Starocci, this was not an easy opponent, right? And Rocco Welch, fairly inexperienced. And I'm not trying to diminish that match when he went 4 for 4. But you could make the argument that going his 4th NCAA title might have been a little more difficult than his 5th NCAA title because of the adversity that he had to deal with. Again, listening to Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel has a podcast, for those who don't know. So I guess a shameless plug over there for Nickel's show. But Nickel alluded to the fact, he's like, most people don't realize what Carter had to go through with his injury and that he probably should not have wrestled, but did it anyway. He didn't have this time. So then the 5th title might in the process, yes, you have the pressure and it's unprecedented, but you're 100%. You are the best version of yourself. So that was the argument that I had leading up through all of this is that if Carter can win an NCAA title on one leg, when he probably shouldn't have wrestled, period. And he went out there and defeated Shane Griffith at the time when he was at Michigan, former NCAA champion at Stanford, Mekhi Lewis of Virginia Tech, Rocco Welch, who is certainly going to be an elite caliber wrestler for years to come at Ohio State, and defeated all of them on one leg, well less than 100%. Not debatable. Well, is he 95%? No. He was well less than 100%. And still went out there and won a 4th NCAA title. Now you are at your best. You are at your strongest. You are better because of that experience. And to go out and do it 5 for 5, Carter Starocci was built for that moment. And now, was he in control the entirety of the match? Not necessarily, but I felt like he was the aggressor. It never was there a moment in time where I was sitting there watching Starocci and Kakaisen thinking, man, Kakaisen's might pull this off. He might prevent history. I felt like Starocci was in the driver's seat, that he was pushing the pace. He was dictating the terms of that match. And Kakaisen was the one, on the defensive, even though there wasn't a lot of action. It's a title. There wasn't much action outside of Jesse Mendez and Brock Hardy. Everything was pretty tentative, right? Everybody was tense. It's an NCAA title. It's the final match of the season. But Starocci and Kakaisen, 4-3. It was going to be close. I did think it was going to go to sudden victory or tiebreaker, but Starocci did the right thing and won. Kakaisen, when he was open for an attack, Starocci did not hesitate. And he knew that that's how it was going to happen, that you were going to have to win the second Kakaisen gave you an opening, and he did. He almost finished the shot the first time in the first period, but Kakaisen gave him a couple more opportunities there where Carter was able to finish it off. So this team took a lot of criticism, saying that how dare we how dare we say that this could be the best team in history? How dare we say that they were going to break records and go down as the best team in college wrestling history? Well, they did. It didn't happen the way we necessarily thought it would, but it did happen. So We're going to get your thoughts from the live chat. We're just going to continue to recap the season. And we can talk about anything here. Who wins the Hodge Trophy now? I don't know that Penn State fans are going to like what I have to say about that. Carter being the 5-time NCAA champion, or Wyatt Hendrickson, who was statistically, objectively speaking, the most dominant wrestler from the season. We'll talk about that and more coming up here on this live edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. We're all about the stats because numbers do not lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada PRO-4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada PRO-4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. That is nissanusa.com. Today's show is also brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Now, daylight savings snuck up on us again. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through all of it. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or you're just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you the quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. So we just saw the conclusion of the March Madness. The madness is still going on with basketball. You'll be staying up late to watch some of this tournament action, and 5-Hour Energy will help you keep up with your next day. Extra daylight means extra activities. So with longer days, if you love going outside, whether that's for a hike or for a jog, you can get a quick boost from 5-Hour Energy. It's the on-the-go convenience that's great. So whether you're traveling or you're at an event, 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab and it keeps you feeling refreshed. Head over to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango, tropical burst, you name it. You can even build your own 12 or 24 pack and have it delivered right to your door. Do you need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized with 5-Hour Energy. Welcome into the live show here, and we're going to jump into the live chat. I imagine that everybody's reaction is going to be about Gable Stevenson and Wyatt Hendrickson. Wow, fun finals from start to finish. Barr is going to wreck the house next season at 197. The Stephen Buchanan, Josh Barr match felt very reminiscent of how it went in the regular season. Stephen Buchanan, just a little more veteran savvy there, but Barr deserves his flowers for this season. This was somebody that was in a competition with, Lucas Cochran. Geez, escaping my mind. I think Connor Mirasola, even though he ended up redshirting, was just in that discussion as well, right? It was an open competition. But Josh Barr clearly emerged from the beginning, even though I had my doubts and reservations. And then they finally announced that, hey, Barr's going to be the starter. And then he went to the Army Black Knight Invitational and then put all the doubts to rest from there. But Barr, the reason he bumps up to 97 is because you're not defeating Carter Starocci in a battle. So it's either you take a back seat and be a backup at 84, his more natural weight class, or you go up 13 pounds. This isn't like the lighter weights where it's 7 or 8 pounds. This is 13 pounds, and Barr looked like a natural at 197. Went from somebody who was in a starting competition battle to being ranked loosely in the top 25. I think he started the first rankings. He was 22nd, jumped immediately into the top 10. And then the conversation shifted here. When he defeated Michael Beard, it wasn't, most people were saying, hey, he's an All-American. This is a strong Penn State wrestler. They just continue to, crank out elite wrestlers left and right. And no, we said that he's an NCAA title contender. This dude can finish. He can absolutely get an NCAA title at 197. Defeated Jacob Cardenas twice and went toe-to-toe with Stephen Buchanan, but didn't just have enough. So NCAA title contender means that you're around. Penn State had 9 of them. And it's not to be disrespectful to Braden Davis. Braden Davis finished top 5. But in the case of Barr, absolutely deserves his flowers for the season. First year starter, a weight class that wasn't his, and accomplished and got past every single obstacle that stood in his way, except Stephen Buchanan. But second place as a first year starter at a weight class that was not yours. Take a bow, Josh Barr, and he's there for 3 more seasons. 3 more seasons of Josh Barr, 3 more seasons of Luke Lillidahl, 2 more of Mitchell Messenbrink, Shane Van Ness, right? The future is bright for Penn State wrestling. Somebody pinch me. I think that's what we're talking about. Wyatt Hendrickson and Gable Stevenson. We have to be. Still can't believe that Wyatt won that. Knew Gable was gassed when he had the coach throw the brick. Wyatt Hendrickson was the wrestler to do that. And it's not to be critical of Greg, even before the injury, but we all saw it at the Big Ten tournament, that if it was going to be Greg Kirkley, Gable State, and who knows if with the way that Wyatt Hendrickson was wrestling, and I just kind of kept going back and forth with Cody of Locked On Oklahoma State, because he kept telling me, he said, I'm telling you, Wyatt Hendrickson is on a mission. I can attest to it. So if there's anybody that predicted the Hendrickson Gable Stevenson upset, it was Cody Stovall, Locked On Oklahoma State. So shout out to him. So it looks like ESPN made the right call. Hindsight's 2020. I still don't know that they did. I think they could have done a better job. They get bailed out by this result. They get bailed out because this easily could have gone was your typical Gable Stevenson. I like Jordan Burroughs' reaction to it, saying you're welcome, like you don't have to thank me type of situation. Did he upset? Did he upset Gable Stevenson? Because pretty sure Wyatt Hendrickson deserves it. That match in general was exciting. It had some tension. Hendrickson comes out with the American flag and Gable Stevenson goes right up to him. He saw it on the television screen. There was definitely that WWE entertainment factor to it. I liked it. It certainly made for a strong finish, but I don't know how you can just make Starocci and Kakaisen just your average everyday matchup. Oh yeah, it's just 2 elite wrestlers. No. So OSU made history today too. Yeah, they did. Oklahoma State, David Taylor, fantastic in his first season, getting 2 individual champions. I know that Troy Spratley didn't win, but Dean Hamady beat Keegan O'Toole. Not a lot of people would. This show had relative confidence. Did I think Levi Haynes was going to beat Dean Hamady? Absolutely. But every step of the way, I said, hey, when I'm projecting Levi Haynes and Hamady, do not discount Hamady. He can absolutely. It was a coin toss with, I'm going to favor Levi Haynes here because he's a 2-time finalist, an NCAA title champion. He won a championship a year ago, granted at a different weight class, but Dean Hamady was also at a different weight class. But David Taylor is in a great spot right now at Oklahoma State. He will have to go through a little bit of a rebuild process because Hendrickson's going to leave and Dean Hamady is also going to Cam Amin, right? A bulk of his wrestlers are veterans, so he's going to have to build through the transfer portal. But that's going to be an attractive destination and something that will continue to be a thorn in the side of Penn State. I don't want to overlook Oklahoma State moving forward. Really happy for David Taylor and Wyatt. Gable had that coming after running his mouth. Gable Stevenson should he have even returned to college wrestling? I thought this was beneath him. I know that he ended up getting some NIL money on the side and what have you, but it really, aside from the loss, why did he come back to college wrestling? That was his payment at the end of the day. That's something we can talk about. The Hodge Trophy. Carter, Mitchell Messenbrink, Wyatt Hendrickson. I got to give it to Wyatt Hendrickson because he was the most. So if we're talking about the Hodge Trophy as it is, he was the most dominant wrestler from start to finish this season. Had the most pins. If you look at the statistics, objectively speaking, he was the most dominant wrestler, and that's what the award is given to. Not even Mitchell Messenbrink was the most dominant wrestler, even Carter Starocci. I thought it was going to go to Starocci or Kakaisen. But I don't know. I think there's a case for Wyatt Hendrickson now that he actually capped off. If he finished now, if Hendrickson complicates this conversation, because if he doesn't win, then it's null and void, and it's Starocci and Kakaisen, but then Starocci won. Now it's Hendrickson and Starocci. So who do you give it to? I don't think there's a wrong answer here. Do you give it to the 5-time NCAA champion, which is never going to be done again, or Hendrickson, who was dominant from start to finish and ultimately finished on top? I think I'm going to have to make, so I do realize that I'm having a bit of connection issues here. I do see that. So I think I'm going to have to reset the stream. I'm going to end the stream here, restart the stream, and we're going to pick back up in about 5 to 10 minutes because I'm having some connection issues. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We're going to have a new stream that's going to pop up here in about 10 minutes. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Really appreciate it.